presented by Charvette Mitchell. Find out more about her at charvettemitchell.com and connect with Charvette on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Grab a pen, notebook, or tablet and get ready. Here is Charvette.
So, when you hear the word grants, what do you think about? Usually people think about like these big checks, the printed out checks, and people are holding up the check that they have received because of grant funding. But in reality, there are a couple of different types of grants, and actually I want to talk about four types of grants that are out there as we jump into this conversation of going after grants. And I have to say, this is tailored to my small business owners and my entrepreneurs, because I know a lot of times when we hear grants and we think about grant funding, it is often around nonprofits. Well, we're going to talk about this from the small business angle, so I'm excited to have you here. I am Charvette Mitchell, CEO of Mitchell Productions. We are a marketing and professional development firm, and we help entrepreneurs and business owners tell the story of their business by way of marketing, visibility, and branding, so that they generate more revenue. And you might be saying, well, Charvette, like where does grant funding, how does that play a role into marketing and all the things? And I'm just pulling this up so I can make sure that I am able to see any comments that are coming in. So where does, how is this conversation tied in? You're the platform builder. You work with people on elevating the visibility of their personal brands and all of that, and building their platform. Well, guess what? The whole purpose of building your platform is to get revenue in. And what you will find a lot of times in this space, as we talk about grants and going after grants, there is, number one, a lot of storytelling within the grant application. They even say, tell us your origin story. How did your business even start? Why are you doing the type of work that you are that you're actually doing? And the other part of when we think about grants and going after grants, and welcome to everyone that's coming on in. We see you coming on in. Just hit those hearts and comment as you are joining us. The other part of that, when you hear grants, oftentimes marketing is attached to that. What do I mean? So they will either, the funding can be used for marketing, or they will ask you to present a budget, and marketing should be in your budget every single time. And then also there is a aspect of when you win and or are awarded grant funding, which is the terminology, that there's a little bit of marketing and visibility there. So if you're ready to jump on in, just type a 1 in the chat. No, put a $sign in the chat. Put a $sign. If you're ready to jump on in and have this conversation around going after grants, just put a $sign in the comments. Hey, April, we see you popped in. Hey, Carolyn, we see you have popped in. So let's go ahead and jump in. So let's start off with, again, like talking about the 4 different types of grants. There are 4 different types of grants. And I think this is important to discuss because clarity saves you time and energy. And there may be some of these that you haven't thought about. So we're going to talk about 4. So number 1 is the traditional grant funding. So grants that give you money, right? So in the traditional sense of grant funding, most entrepreneurs, you all are familiar with this, right? It is around cash that is awarded to you to use for business purposes. And a lot of times you unilaterally get to decide that. I see the $signs in the chat. I see the $signs in the comments. Hey, Dr. Vicky, I see the $signs. Hey, yes, Carolyn said, talk to me about grants. Talk to me about some money. I see the $signs. So the traditional, number 1, if you are a note taker, grants that give you money. And that is the traditional grant funding that entrepreneurs and small business owners are familiar with. That's when you actually get cash and you're able, in most cases, to unilaterally use that within your business. And they're great, right? They are highly competitive, though. So oftentimes grants that do give the actual money, we love them. We want them, right? They are highly competitive. There's usually an application process. There's going to be some type of review process. And you'll need, that strong application, right? You'll need that strong storytelling of being able to tell the story of your business, which ties into this conversation around marketing, right? And this conversation around personal branding, which is something that we are always talking about if you're connected here on this channel or on this podcast or on this video, right? And so, we want to go after that, right? And so grant funding, you can see grants that might be $100 to $100,000. So the range of the money that can be involved, and there might be even more, even higher than that in very specific sectors. But number one, traditional grant funding is you're getting money, you're getting grant money, right? So that's one type of grant that you can go after as we talk about this conversation on going after grants. That's the traditional one, right? The second type of grants that you can go after are grants that will pay for a service for you instead of giving you the money. And I'm interested to know anyone in any of the comments if you've received any type of grant funding like this. So there are grants that can be put out, government grants, it can be nonprofit types of grants that are given. And we're talking, this conversation is around business owners. So I know a lot of times, again, when you hear grants, you think, oh, that's only for nonprofits. No, we're talking from a standpoint of a small business. There are organizations that will give grants, and what they will do is they won't give you the cash directly, but they will cover things like marketing support. They will cover things like consulting. They will cover things like web design. They will cover things like accounting and helping set up QuickBooks and training or startups for businesses. So that is the second type of grant funding or grant award that you could win, is an organization paying for a service that you would have had to come out of pocket to pay for, but they're just paying the service provider directly. I could even give you an example. So there have been at least two occasions, my company, Mitchell Productions, where we have been able to, number one, be on both sides of the fence. So let me give you the example. So the city of Richmond had a grant program. This was a couple years back, and Mitchell Productions was hired to create marketing plans for business owners within the city of Richmond. Well, guess what? The city of Richmond in this grant funding paid Mitchell Productions, and then the people that were awarded grants were able to get websites. We did marketing plans, but other people were able to get websites through other providers, get accounting support. So that is one side of it. We also more recently just wrapped up in March working with the city of Fairfax, and our organization was one of the service providers for a grant that they had for Fairfax city companies that they submitted a grant application and won, and they were able to get various different types of services out of the grant funding. So this is number two, where the grant is going to pay for a service. And so in particular, Mitchell Productions, we created brand photography. We also created brand videos. So one of the clients, for example, was a karate school, a dojo for karate. And so we had a whole production day and created videos and reels and great photography. And so now this business, which with karate, that's visual, right? You got to see that. This business now has these great marketing assets, but Mitchell Productions was paid however the assets were given to that particular business. So you don't want to leave out that there is this other type of grant opportunity where they're going to pay for services. Now I know it's more sexy and cool to say, I want the check in my hand, I want cash in my hand, but sometimes these types of grant opportunities are overlooked, but they save you money out of pocket. So you're still really getting the same thing, the same bang for the buck. Hey, Dr. Angeline, we see you popping on in. You still get the same bang for the buck. Now, I said I had an example that I would flip that on the other side. So within, oh my goodness, this beginning of this year, Mitchell Productions won a grant similar to this second top option here, where there's grant funding that pays for a service. We won a grant from Henrico Economic Development Center to have advertising in the Henrico Citizen. So those of you that are outside of Richmond, Virginia, Henrico is like a suburb of Richmond, and so there's this great news outlet. They have 34,000 followers on Substack, and they've got this great email list and all this connection. And so one grant that was provided was, hey, we're going to cover advertising in this particular media outlet, and that was an example of a grant that we won. We were on the other side. So I'm honing in on this, that I don't want you to forget and don't want you to discount when there are grants that will pay for services instead of giving you the money. All right, so that's the second type of grant. Now let's go to the third type of grant. There are grants that come in the form of cohorts or accelerators. Hey, Sharon, thanks for popping on in. Yep, that Carolyn said that opportunity sounds great. Absolutely. So the next type, if we talk about the third type of grant that you can get, is grants in the form of cohorts or accelerators. And so a cohort style grant selects a group of, entrepreneurs, and it's really based around mentorship, education, really around helping you to build capacity in your business. Some of the cohorts, I will say, you may get money or funding when you complete it. Some of them, you're not actually getting money or services, but the program itself and really helping you build capacity is really what it's around. So an example of that is Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs 100 women, 100 a million Black women in business, which we were a part of and awarded that. Literally, they flew us to New York for the initial orientation. They flew us back, all expenses paid for the graduation. There was then like this 12 to 18, 16 week, almost mini college course, if you will, that we experienced. Zero money out of pocket for the grantees, basically. And so again, this type of grant is in the form of cohorts or accelerators. So when you see those opportunities, or when you go look for them, now that you've been a part of this video, when you go look for them, I see the hearts, then you will know, okay, and you'll be able to put it in that framework. Okay, this is a grant. Someone is paying for this programming, this coaching, this experience, and then I'm able to partake in it. So that is the third type of grant. When we having this conversation around going after grants, I want you as a small business owner to be thinking about all of these potential options. So again, grants in the forms of cohorts. And if you've been in any type of grant that was a cohort or an accelerator, let us know in the chat, or let us know, in the comments. Again, these programs are really based around building your capacity in your business, building your capacity for growth, building your capacity for teams and things of that nature, and not per se about giving you cash, but giving you the ability. If you teach someone to fish, if you give someone a fish, they eat one day, but if you teach them to fish, they will eat for the rest of their life. So they also give you community. They give you community. They give you visibility because then within the cohorts, now you have this extension of a network that then can refer business to you that does turn into cash, right? And then also it helps you with long-term growth and skills and things that outlast the actual physical dollar. So there's that. All right. So let's keep it moving here. The fourth and final type of grant that I want you to be thinking about as an entrepreneur and as a business owner. And welcome. We see new people coming on in. Thank you so much. We're popping up comments as we go. And if you're new to me, I'm Charvette Mitchell. I'm the CEO of Mitchell Productions, and we are a marketing and professional development firm. We help businesses, women entrepreneurs in particular, tell the story of their business through marketing, visibility, and branding so that they generate more revenue. And we are talking about going after grants. And FYI, and oh, by the way, we're going to be doing a whole entire deep dive session. The nitty gritty of grants is going to be happening at the Platform Builder Summit. You need to get your butt in a seat and be with us here in Richmond, Virginia, November 7th and November 8th. There is a comment that is pinned below. You want to get your butt in a seat because we have Dr. Jaitanya Parker, who has spent at least 25 years winning, writing, awarding, managing grants, and reviewing grants for the city of Richmond, multiple millions of dollars of grants. And she's going to do a whole entire deep dive session. So those of you that already have your tickets, get ready. But the rest of you, listen, what you doing? Make sure you get to Richmond, Virginia, November 7th and 8th. Just jump over to platformbuildersummit.com, platformbuildersummit.com. Again, we have, listen, the registration alone for this one session is worth it. All right, so I had to stick that in. So let's get to the fourth type of grant, and I'll do a recap because I know some of you are just popping on in. The fourth type of grant, it acts like a contract. All right. And so some grants are structured like a service agreement. So you get funding to deliver a program or a service. So you want to be thinking in the mind of like a government grant. Government contract, let me say it that way, or organizational contract. So the money is actually grant funds, but they are giving it to you to then go do some type of program or operate some type of service. Versus the first type of grant that I talked about, where they deliver money to you, they deliver cash to you, and those you are for the most part able to handle and operate the money as you see fit, unless you put a specific reason or specific note in the grant of how you're going to spend the funding. Just depends on the grant you're going after. But the grants that act like a contract, it's very clear. Hey, we're giving you this grant funding to then be able to execute this program. So Mitchell Productions actually was awarded one of these types of grants last September, and we are coming to the close of the of this particular grant period that in the end of September that acts as a contract. And it was a multiple six figures grant that we won, were awarded, and are managing. And so I want you to be thinking about, does your business or do you have any collaborations where this type of grant would work for you? And these type of grants really expand your portfolio. They give you reoccurring revenue opportunities, and they really help you, really improve your impact. And you're actually actioning on some type of program or service. And so that is another form of a grant that you want to be thinking about. So I'm doing this session here specifically for business owners. Again, nonprofit, listen, y'all can jump in where y'all fit in. But oftentimes business owners do not consider perhaps that grants are a option for them. And so I wanted to make sure that you knew and that you had kind of a line of sight, because sometimes it's just around exposure, right? Sometimes it's just around somebody telling you, somebody not gatekeeping and saying, oh, there are different types of things, grants that you can go after. So let's recap. First type of grant is your traditional grant, where there is grant funding. You apply, you complete some type of application. There are various types. Some applications are short, some are long. Some grants, it might be $100, $500, $1,000. Some might be up to $100,000. It might be even over that. That's your first traditional grant funding, where you're going to get a check and boom, you go and operate your business or continue building your business. The second type of grant is where the grant pays for a service for you. So it might be web design service. It might be accounting services. It might be I've seen grants that pay for legal services. So if you were going into a lease, you could, the grant covered having a lawyer, go up and fight for you and write the grant, all types of things. So the second type of grant is all around the grant, not giving you actual dollars or a check, but they will go pay a service provider who then gives you an actual service and fulfills on a service for you. The third type of grant is in the form of cohorts and accelerators. And a cohort or accelerator, again, is usually a group of entrepreneurs that they pull together. And there's going to be training, teaching, coaching, mentorship, in helping you to build the capacity of your business. Most of them don't necessarily come with funding. Some do. So you want to look at that on the application. You want to see, if I go through this cohort, will I also get funding at the end? Some of them do. But some of them, the main thing is that it is giving you this really high level experience from a coaching and mentoring standpoint, and they'll cover the expenses. So for instance, the Goldman Sachs one that we were in, where they flew us to New York, flew us back, all expenses paid, all of that. That's an example of that. And then the fourth and final grant that you want to be thinking about putting on your radar, looking for, is the grant that operates like a contract. So there's grant funding. They need programs and services provided. Your business or a collaboration of people that go after this particular contract. You are awarded the grant. You are given the money, and then you go off and operate this specific program or service. So you're not able to use the money for what you want. They're giving you the grant funding with the contract saying, go do this program or service. And that is the fourth one that I want you to have your eyes out and looking for. So now I know the next question is going to be like, Sharpa, well, what do we do next? What's next? What's next? I'm so glad you asked, because that's why you need to be at the Platform Builders Summit. This is my ninth in-person event, November 7th and 8th in Richmond, Virginia, Drury Plaza Hotel. It is an all VIP experience, all VIP tickets. But guess what? Early bird ends in September, but we have a 3 payment option. So literally you do a payment today. Payment 1 will bill you in 30 days in September, payment 2 in 30 days in October, payment 3. That option that just makes it, more, a little bit easier to work with, is going away August 31st. So this is the time to get your ticket, right? This is the time to get your ticket to the Platform Builder Summit. If you would like to do the 3 pay option, certainly there are those that just pay right out. But if you like to do the 3 payment option, you want to do that before August 31st. And Dr. Jatanya Parker is going to be with us talking specifically about grants. And that session alone is worth the registration. So she's going to give you the nitty gritty on grants and on grant funding. She has worked for the city of Richmond, and she's got 25 plus years experience writing grants. And we're talking in the millions, writing grants, managing grants, and also being a grant reviewer. So what does that mean? She has sat on committees who review grants to decide yes or no. All right. She can consult with you on grants. So Dr. Jatanya Parker is going to do a whole session on grants at the Platform Builders Summit, November 7th and 8th in Richmond, Virginia. I am the host and producer. Shout out to one of our corporate sponsors, Call Federal Credit Union. We are so excited to be partnering with them. So consider Call Federal Credit Union for one of your accounts coming up, and you'll hear more about that. But it is a wrap. Again, I'm Charvette Mitchell. And let me just capture, I see a comment coming on in, and we love to see all of your comments here. So Sharon Lane commented, and she said, I participated in a cohort with Transformation Gyms in Michigan, which is led by Dr. Carmen Thomas. And after completing the 8-week session, I was asked to be a facilitator in future cohorts with Transformation Gyms. And so great. So thank you for sharing that example of a grant in the form of a cohort or an accelerator. All right, it is a wrap. We're going to see you all later on the web, wherever you are taking in this information. If you are on any of our video platforms, go ahead and subscribe and follow. Go ahead and subscribe on YouTube. If you're listening to the podcast version of this, go ahead and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our juicy content that is coming on out. We appreciate you spending some time with us. I am Charvette Mitchell, and I look forward to staying connected with you. But more importantly, I look forward to seeing you at the Platform Builders Summit November 7th and 8th. And congratulations to all of the upcoming grants that you will win, or you might be a service provider that gets paid for delivering on a grant. All right, we'll see you all later on the web.